Hello everyone, welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope you're all good and well. So I move on to book 5 of the Malazan Book of the Fallen series with this series of videos. And with Midnight Tides, this 5th book, this is the first time of me reading this. So with the other 4 books I've done in this series so far, I had read those once before reading again, especially for this little series I'm doing on the channel. But this was my first time actually reading this all the way through. And I've got to say, pretty good. I enjoyed it. It was kind of bizarre in places. I feel like Erikson's imagination kind of goes into overdrive with some of his imaginings for this book. So what I do for these videos typically is I do a sort of introduction. I set the scene a bit for the book without going into any major spoilers. I do maybe share some thoughts, do a little review of the book for anyone who maybe, has a passing interest in Malazan, maybe hasn't read the series at all, or maybe you've read a couple of the books or whatever. I'll do a little review of the book as well. And then for the last segment of the video, what I do is share my favourite moments. And typically I kind of do a few of those, and that's the spoiler part of the video. So before I get onto my favourite moments, I will let you guys know. So I will say it in the video. This is the spoiler part of the video. Turn off now if you don't want to know any major spoilers from Midnight Tides. So anyway, let's go into sort of setting the scene for this book a bit. So this follows on from House of Chains, but not in the Malazan timeline sense. This goes way back in the Malazan timeline to completely throw you as readers, I suspect. It's almost like Erikson does this deliberately. He is predictably unpredictable. So you get another book and you're not quite sure, well, hang on, where is this taking place in the timeline? This one's going back to before Gardens of the Moon. So we go right the way back. And in fact, though, there is a link in a way to House of Chains, because Charles Sengar, he is very much a character in this book. So there are some links. We do get introduced more to a fairly critical character in this kind of whole series, to my mind, is the crippled god, and his role becomes quite at the forefront in the series for this, which does make it kind of interesting. So the way Erikson described this book was a bit of a kind of self-contained tragedy, particularly what happens with the Sengar brothers. And you have Troll, as I mentioned, Fear, and Rulad. And the story revolves kind of around them for quite a significant part. And what happens in particular with one of the brothers is where this sort of whole, this whole sequence of events kind of happens after, something that happens with one of the brothers in particular. And it's after that, I think, that the book starts to get really good as well, when you sort of have that coming into focus. So you also have these Beddict brothers as well, these Letheri citizens, and you sort of have Hull and Brees, I feel like, on the one hand, more involved in the political stuff going on with the Warlock King, and then some T-Hole, who kind of brings more of the light touch to the book, along with this guy called Bug, I think, and lots of the humour comes with them back in this back in Lether, this region, I think, and all of that stuff is quite entertaining. And you get introduced to this weird. This is where it gets kind of weird, is with all this undead kind of all these undead kind of sexual aspects that suddenly come in to this book. Which you'll either find entertaining or just downright bizarre, and I think I'm somewhere between the two. I kind of found parts of that whole thing entertaining, other parts that I was just like, this is getting really kind of weird. But I did enjoy it overall, like I say. And actually a couple of my favourite moments do fall within the T-Hole, the Shirkilau, and the Bug parts of the book in particular. I will reveal that much. So yeah, I did enjoy this overall. as I usually share at this point where I would put this in the series so far. I mean, what I might do is a tier list or something when I've read through all of these books. I mean, that's going to be probably relatively far in the future, going by the pace I've been reading through these thus far. But I would say, I think I actually enjoyed this more than the previous book, House of Chains. I would say that. I think it was really some fantastic character work. And I think the humour generally worked quite well. Okay, I've been saying it was kind of bizarre and like Erickson's imagination going into overdrive, but despite that, I felt like the book still achieved and retained pretty good balance within it. And, you know, it sort of still, I think, made the sadness and the tragedy part of this book was still pretty, you know, still resonated with me. I still felt, you know, the really sad parts of this you could really feel, and you could relate a bit, I think, in particular to those kind of brother type storylines which you get throughout this book, obviously not just with the Sengars but with the Bedicks essentially too. So I guess that concludes this part of the video. So if you don't want to know anything more, then switch off now, because I'm going to go into the major spoiler moments, my favourite moments of Midnight Tides. Let's begin with the first favourite moment then, which is a funny exchange I thought between Shirk and T-Hole. And so Finad, so I'll just read this out basically. Finad Gerin Eberict will be attending the special drownings, whereupon at its conclusion he will be a guest at an event hosted by Tirudal Brizad, or the Queen's consort. Yes, I once robbed him. This is Shirk Ilal speaking. Indeed, and what did you take? T-Hole asks her. His virginity. We were very young. Well, he was anyway. I kind of like those little humorous exchanges between T-Hole and Shirk in that kind of segment of the book. Next up we have Fear reflecting on his brother Rulad, who has basically just been killed, but we know that he's not actually really dead. But this is prior to Rulad being revived. Fear studied each of them in turn, then said, "We travel through this night. I want us out of these wastes as soon as possible." He looked down on Rulad, his brother, once more. "Our brother is blooded. He died a warrior of the Heroth. His shall be a hero's funeral, one that all the Heroths shall remember." So he's kind of feeling quite defiant at that point, that he feels like his brother, you know, despite his kind of naivety and everything, you know, Fear really loves Rulad, I think, and he's kind of like, he died a hero, you know, fighting for his cause. Next up, I think this is another, so this is another T-Hole moment, when he goes into a brothel, and he meets Matron de Lisp, I think, whilst he's looking for Shirk Ilal. I think I've got that right. So a sweet feminine voice murmured close to his ear, that's to T-Hole's ear, "You're not in disguise, sir," which means, well, we both know what that means, don't we? And then he says, "I've come for my daughter." And then this matron comes back saying, "Oh, that's in very poor taste. We can't abide such sick, twisted desires in here." So, yeah, that was kind of a funny moment there. Next up, now this was quite a sort of sad moment between Barak and Seren. Barak is a man in this book who is really kind of tortured by his conscience, I think. He gets caught up in politics quite a bit with this warlock king, Hannah Mozag, who is another pretty central character to this whole story because of his links with the crippled god and with Father Shadow as well in particular. And his last moment with Seren is pretty sad because I think despite, you know, his kind of, you know, the path he has taken, obviously, in this book, and his kind of, like, there's a lot of alcohol misuse and all that sort of thing. But he suddenly seems to, I think, have this last moment of regret, and he sort of declares his love for Seren Padak in this story. So he goes, "Is this another betrayal? asks Seren. She felt herself sagging on the bench, and he says, "My last, dear. Remember this if you can. I didn't want your help." Then Seren goes, "My help. Although," he added from a great distance, "you have always held my heart." So a bit of a romantic moment there to mix in with some of the more funny ones, or a sad moment, I guess. Then the last part of this book, I think, or the last favourite moment, is a kind of when Fear's reflecting on everything that's happened, and this is right near the end. I think it's about page 909 here. And he's reflecting on Hannan Mosag and the involvement of the gods, and he says, "Shaped by Hannan Mosag, all of this, he understood that now. From the very first, the brutal unification of the tribes, the secret pacts with the unknown god had already been made. So obvious now. The warlock king had turned his back on Father Shadow, and why not, since Gabandari Blood-Eye was gone, never to return. Not even Hannan Mosag then, but long ago. That was when his path first began. Long, long ago." So he's just kind of reflecting there on everything, and I think this kind of leads to his decision actually to part from Rulad, his brother, and go looking for Father Shadow and try and find out what's been going on. So yeah, I enjoyed this book. Some just a few moments there, and yeah, I would probably rate this one pretty highly. And I didn't actually say where I'd rank this so far out of the 5 books I've read. I would say this is probably, I'm thinking my 3rd favourite maybe. But I'd say Dead House Gates is still probably my favourite. I just think that or Memories of Ice, then this one, then Gone to the Moon, then House of Chains. So what do you think of Midnight Tides? Do you like this book? Do you, what are your favourite moments? Do share with me in the comments. I think, what have I got next? I think it's Bone Hunters or something like that. The Bone Hunters is the next one in the tale, I believe. Yes, it's the Bone Hunters. So that'll be the next video. Do join me for that if you're interested in all things Malazan. Otherwise, from me, till next time, take care everybody. Bye for now.